So today we'll be spending some time. I've done a survey with our Going Deeper participants to hear a little bit, and I'll share some of the findings from that, hear a little bit about what they said about their groups. And then Wendy will share some changes that are coming. And then we will also dive into some of the exercises that we're planning for the May material. So you guys get a chance to practice those before we actually have to facilitate them live in our groups. So before we get to that, I'll turn it over to Jenny for the check-in.
Hi, everybody. So if you all feel you'd like to check in today for a couple minutes, I'll put our prompts in the chat, and please call on somebody when you're done. And then if you don't want to check in, of course, you can always pass. But well, I hit enter. There we go. What is on your heart today? And then if you wanted to share a little bit about how the Experilearning experiments went in April and how your group received the changes to the packet.
I can start. I think probably like most of you, I was excited about the verdict, but also know we have a long, long way to go. But at least this time, maybe the right thing happened. My group had a lot of fun with the first session. And I thought the pushback would be from the actual exercise, the drawing and stuff like that. It was the song. No, nobody liked. One woman said that she'd been trying to figure out this bloody Fleetwood Mac song for 40 years, and her picture showed a woman with puzzle pieces floating. But oh, we found out things about each other. It was fantastic. So thank you.
Wow.
Rochelle, how you doing?
I'm good. Agreed on the trial and verdict, and a long way to go. We got our second vaccine shots yesterday, and both Darren and I are feeling great, so that's awesome. No ill effects. So our group, I was very pleasantly surprised. I expected a lot of pushback. They weren't excited about it, but I said, let's just try this and see how it goes. And, if you hate it, we don't have to do it again. And they were so creative. We had someone do a weaving with Post-it notes that she had in front of her and relate that to the song. We had an interpretive dance, which, I think it was kind of like just like a feeling sort of thing. It wasn't too related, but I appreciated the diversity of the effort there and some interesting artwork. So yeah, it was, they said that they wouldn't want to do it all the time, but that it was surprisingly a fun, different experience for them. So it went pretty well. Charlotte?
I really don't have much to report. I've been gone most of the month, and so Marilyn Sturek has been leading our group this month. So I'll have to check in with her. I actually haven't talked to her since I got back, so I really can't tell you how they did, but I'm sure they had a wonderful time because we always do. So Lynn?
Well, hello, everybody. As for me, I found a new word reading an article in the Atlantic or something, some article, and the word is languishing.
Mm.
And the article was maintaining that we're somewhere between, or a lot of us anyway, between depressed and energized. And I thought, that's perfect. That's just perfect, because it's exactly where I feel, somewhere in this in between space, which includes kind of waiting, anticipating, not sure about what to do, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of where I am. Um, our group, I mean, we found the experiential things most enlivening. It was really a relief to do something that was more experiential. And as several people said, both in the drawing and the photographs, you know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So to really share some of our lives with each other in a different kind of way was great. And we also managed to kind of fit some of the responses to the quotes in there. So actually it was very, all of it's been pretty fulfilling. And I tell you, I'm really looking forward. Oh, we didn't use the song. It wasn't until later that I discovered you could get a Stevie Nicks version of it, because I couldn't quite deal with the chicks. So, so we skipped that. And something else I was going to say. Oh, and we're going to do the 6-word journey, which I'm really looking forward to. That's kind of a lot of fun once you get into the swing of it. So that's it. Kathy?
Well, I was really disappointed in the way our group handled the assignment. We had, my group is an older, totally older in age. And some of the people just had a whole total pushback. First of all, one person is out of town for the whole month and let me know way in advance that she wouldn't be there. And then 2 of the people are sisters, and they just wrote me a couple days before and said, you know, I'm sick, total, you know, chronic illness. And you know, I just can't deal with this. It's too hard. And another one, her sister wrote and said, well, I'm having migraines. I can't deal with this. And I'm not going to, neither my sister nor I will be at the meeting. And, you know, so we got down to just very few people. And I contacted the rest of the group and said, well, this is where we're at right now. What shall we do? And they all decided, well, let's cancel the meeting. So that's exactly what we did, because you know, that's what we decided. And so they had done the homework, but they just didn't want to deal with it with so few people. And so that's the way we handled it. You know, we were all feeling very disappointed that that it worked out that way, but it was the consensus of the group. So that's what we did. And I felt very disappointed because it was a real pushback. And I just, you know, they have the right to do what they want to do. And, you know, we could have helped them along right in the meeting if that's what they needed. But, you know, I felt it, and it wasn't that hard. You know, when I did it for myself, it didn't take any time at all to get it done. And it was kind of fun to do. So, I understand. I did understand totally. So it was just kind of a disappointment to me. So, but we'll move on from this and go on to the next thing. Let's see. How about Darren?
Yeah. So as I look out the window, I'm remembering that we just got back from a really lovely trip to Utah. We went to Canyonlands for a week with my best friend, who I've known for a really long time since I got to Colorado, and we've never been on vacation together. His wife and him, and Rochelle and I. So we did this trip, and it was really a lot of fun. We went to Canyonlands and went to the Needles District and did Islands in the Sky, and we got just gloriously lovely weather. So it was really super good. The last day that we were there, I sat down on a like a place near this place called Fisher Towers. It just overlooked this great expansive valley, and sat down and meditated for about an hour. And I woke up and I was completely disoriented. I had no idea where I was for a minute or two. I got up, I put my fanny pack on with my water bottles, started walking down the mountain, and realized as I got about probably between a quarter and a half mile down that I had actually just left my phone. I got up and walked off without it. So I turned around and I boogied back up the mountain, and it was still there. It was great. But I had a really deep experience, which was very cool, and I needed it. Of course, Rochelle would tell you if we had time that I told her I just didn't feel like seeing any more red rocks. I didn't want to go on. I did not say, I just want to sit down and meditate for a while, because I was afraid I'd get in trouble for being antisocial. But it was really a great experience. Let's see, Experilearning experiments. How did they go? It's because our group does not meet for 2 hours, we did not make it to the Experilearning portion of the evening. We did, however, have a really fantastic session on the 5 pictures of becoming. So nobody did quotes whatsoever. And I will say that I don't know if it's my group or if it's a lot of people's groups, but I have an adverse, they do not want to do homework. There are a lot of times when we get to the session and some of them are opening the packet of materials for the first time, and I sent them the materials for this session on the 4th of April. So I can't help them if they don't help themselves. And I told them in the materials I sent them that there were some changes this month and to go ahead and look over the packet. They unfortunately didn't do it, but there was not enough time to make it through the 5 pictures and do the landslide, which is too bad, because it's interesting. I will say the way that my group handled the 5 pictures included included some interpretive storytelling, because they hadn't gotten the pictures either. So instead of showing us pictures, which some people held up, and then some of us knew how to share our screens and we did that, they actually talked through the pictures and said, if I had a picture of this event in my life, this is what it would be. And so it was actually lovely in a way, and gave them a chance to, unfortunately, it was just expressing themselves kind of the same way that we had been doing all year long, but it was a little bit different in that they were doing some storytelling in the process. So I apologize, because we just, an hour and a half was not enough time, and I was afraid this might be the case, but that's the way it worked out. Judy, go.
I'll go. Both of my groups have really liked having the exercise at the beginning. It's been really very good positive change, especially the 5 pictures and the 6-word journeys. Those have just been really fun. The song, and our group is a little bit older too, just kind of overwhelmed everybody. And it's extremely visual. I mean, I didn't know there was another version. So we did the Dixie Chicks version, and we had great discussion about it, but nobody wanted to draw. It was like kind of a non sequitur for us because it was so visual. And then, that nobody wanted to go into the drawing thing. But the other exercises have been great. So yeah, both of my groups seem to be going well, and all is well. Thanks.
Thank you all for sharing. I think that was really enlightening. I'm so glad that everyone was willing to try something a little bit different. And I'm impressed at those who got everything covered in the packet, because I intentionally knew that there was too much there. And I wanted to make sure that you have options in case your group's completely resistant to something. So there's many different learnings. Experilearning is a fascinating process to build from and test out and see what works or what doesn't. So I am very much a data-minded person. And as they're trying to figure out what is coming next, I went ahead and did a participant survey of our Going Deeper folks this year, and just asked a few questions about, why did you join? What were you hoping to get out of it? What did come out of it? And being my first survey at JUC, I had no idea what response rates would be like. But nearly a third of your group members responded in the first 48 hours. And by the time I closed the survey 2 weeks later, I had nearly 75% of people in Going Deeper groups share feedback. And there were a lot of open-ended comments, a lot of, I asked a question of, is there anything else that you think staff should know? And so a ton of feedback to search through and come back through. So I just want to show you some highlights or tell you some highlights. Most folks were looking for relationships, community, as they were, which is why they joined Going Deeper, which is a hard mark to hit in a world with a pandemic, and we are all online. But 68% of the people who responded to the survey said they felt part of a community. And another 57% said I felt cared for by others. So even though we didn't have that physical connection like we're used to, people still felt the love. They felt like the support from their groups, that sense of community. And that is nothing short of amazing given the conditions we were up against last year. 60% of our samples said that they explored ideas and concepts more deeply. And another 52% said I've created meaningful relationships. There were tons and tons of comments about how much they loved their facilitators, they loved the work, the comments, but there are a couple that I really wanted to share with you. And the first one was, it was completely anonymous, so I don't know who said what, but this is one testimonial from one of your group members. Our Going Deeper group has been such a deep source of support and care during a hard time for my family. That's not something we could get from a big Sunday service, but only from a small group. And I hope we have been a source of support for other group members who've been through challenging times with kids, with family illnesses, with grieving death of a loved one. What a year. Going Deeper has been essential. Thank you for it. Another one said, Going Deeper has been the cornerstone of my time and connection to JUC as a member. Honestly, it's fostered many of the friendships I have and has challenged me to keep living into my truest self. And a third said, I would encourage joining a group for anyone wanting to build connections within the church community. There were so many to choose from. I just had to pick the top ones that floated on the list because the amount of impact that these groups have had has really shown through from our participants' side of things. So we only get to see a little bit, but it has made an incredible impact. And that's because of the work that you all have done. That's because of the fact that you have held these groups together for however many eternities we've been in this pandemic together. So I wanted to share that. So I'm going to turn it over to Wendy to talk a little bit about what's ahead in our small group ministry.
Hey everybody, good to see you. And I hope you felt a certain sense of pride in those statistics that you just were hearing, because obviously lots of folks had a good experience, and it's good to know that the church was finding ways to be holding folks through this, and you all we set it up, but you all did the 1-on-6s or the 1-on-10s or whatever. So thank you so much. I am reminded, I don't know if any of you remember that cartoon, or now it would be called a meme, but whatever it was called back 15 years ago. But it was like, what a dog says versus what a cat says. And a dog is like all about, it's been forever since my people have been here. They left 5 minutes ago. And the cat's journal starts out, my 1295th day in captivity. Does anybody remember that? Well, I'm feeling like I'm reading from the cat's journal. And it's been a long year. It has been a really long year. And our church hits this stride anyway, coming into May and into June, and we assess what's going to continue over the summer, what needs to take a rest. And the truth is, most everything needs to take a rest this year. It's just been a big deal to keep it going. And as you all know, we kept it going with very little notice. I like to poke at Carol Wilsey, who said, leaving on vacation right before the pandemic, she said, well, do what you need to do, take care of everything and do what you need to do. And I'll see you when I get back. And I said, yep, I will. And she said, close the church if you need to. And I said, okay. And she left the next day. And by the time she got to the airport at her destination, we had in fact closed the church. And it wasn't to spite Carol. It was just because that's how it broke. But that's how suddenly it hit. And as our intern up there in the corner can, at least up in my corner, can tell us, she was getting ready to preach, and which was already nerve-wracking enough at her stage of the game. And then it became something else. So everything has become something else in this year. So all of that is just to name that this is one of the things that needs to take a rest. And so our last session in May will be the last session for going deeper. We're not going to continue the groups over the summer. So wanted to let you know that, and wanted to let you know how grateful we are for all that you've done and how much you help people plug in. Of course, we want to encourage you to reach out to your participants, and I'm always hopeful that authentic relationships have been formed and that they continue, that they don't need this formal group setting to happen. I also want to say that moving forward, we're not going to, like at next year in the fall, we're not going to restart any of these groups, right? Some of your groups have continued for a couple of years or longer, and in part over this last year or so, that was because of COVID, and we just really felt like the stability was needed. And it's so, again, great gratitude, but we really, and I've said this before, if you've been, you could have heard me say it many, many times, and some of you may have missed it, but I've said it a bunch. We don't want these groups to sort of be facilitating cliques. We want them to facilitate friendships and a knowledge of people, a way to shrink the church. In large church world, small group ministry is essential, but we don't want it to be hard to break into to a group. So we're going to be exploring over among the things that we're exploring over the summer, right? I mean, the pandemic has just had us rethinking everything that we do. We don't have a date certain by which we are going to come back to in-person church. And even in our initial phases of coming back to church, where we can be in person, it won't surprise you, I'm sure, to hear it isn't going to be just like it was. There's maybe ultimately it will be, but we're going to have iterations. We're beginning to think about what those are. We just had a meeting this morning about what worship is going to look like. What is worship going to be, where we are designing it both to be in person for some and to be virtual for others? Because even though we've been live streaming for years, thank goodness, we've been live streaming the service that we've designed for the people in the room, and now we have to design for both. So prayers welcome, kind thoughts encouraged. That same thing is true for every area of our church, including this one. So we're going to be spending some time as a staff imagining how this is going to work into the future. So we will have a small group program starting in the fall, but we're just in the earliest planning stages. And this summer we're going to spend time, well, we're encouraging all of you to spend time resting and practicing self-care. The staff will be practicing self-care and being accountable to each other. Jenny will be leaving us as at the end of May as her time with us ends, and she'll be getting married and starting in on her next chapter of ministry. So all of that, but I just wanted to share with you that we are that, you know, we don't quite know what it's going to look like, and like everything else, it's under evaluation for this. How will we be going forward? How will we do this hybrid model? So I know that change is hard. Always know that. And might feel like it's happening to you. So I also want to make space here. You might be having some feelings that you might need to share, and might want to share what you know, over the summer, what you might miss about facilitating a going deeper group or anything else. So I hold space for that.
Will there be something that will replace the going deeper groups? Will there be some kind of small group ministry going on that will replace the going deeper groups?
There will, for certain, be small group ministry in the fall. There will not be in the summer.
Okay.
So Wendy,
Yes, Charlotte.
as you know, I have kind of a hybrid group because we live so far away. And so it's not like it makes sense for us to, you know, think about joining other groups in the city. You know, we have added a couple, actually over the last 3 years, we've added 4 new members, folks who have been part of JUC or have attended, and when they found out we existed, they wanted to join our small group. I would really like the option to say to my group, do you want to continue to meet as a group? And I think that they will, because we're very connected, I think in a really healthy way. So I hope that it's okay for us to do that if they choose to, which I think they will.
Yeah, and I would say I would say both yes and no, Charlotte. And here's what I mean by that. Like I think it's great that your group is connected to each other and you really have built up um, this caring, reciprocal connection. And I would say that we are ending all groups as small groups and starting over. And of course, obviously, you are welcome and encouraged to maintain the connections you have with people. And I think a gift that we've learned from the challenges of this particular misery that is the pandemic is that, even though you live at a distance, you can join a group and say, I want to be in a group that meets virtually because, you can be anywhere. So several of us participate from staff participate in small groups across the country, and we have good relationships, and we may never be in the same room with folks, and that can be hard, but there's also a freedom in it. It opens up times when we can meet for the folks who don't want to drive at night, and on and on and on. So
Thank you.
sure.
Is there anything we can do to help? Wendy?
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. Nothing that I can think of at the moment. We're just kind of deep in it.
Okay.
Again, noting the earlier comment that prayers and kind thoughts in perpetuity.
Okay.
Can you give us any more idea about where things might be headed, Wendy? It sounds kind of to say to our groups, which most of the people who are in our group are not, were not in it last year. A few were, but there's something that feels very abrupt here, and maybe it's just because of this pandemic and some changes that you have in mind, but I'm sure we'll get questions, about sort of where things are headed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think thanks for your sensitivity, Lynn, about that. Maybe it has something to do with the pandemic, the feel of the abruptness, because I think um, I think when I first wanted small groups to get started and we're helping them start, the notion was that they would only ever go, from like September to June or something like that, and then they would be disbanded and remixed, right? So that you are meeting different people, and again, both the pandemic said, we kind of said, do you want to groups, do you want to continue, right? Just so there was that stability through this really uncertain time. And there's also been occasions in past years that weren't pandemic years where we allowed groups to continue. Some groups, I can think of a time or two where a group started in January and it was going to be a half-year group, and they were just feeling so connected and like they didn't want to let go of each other, so we allowed them to continue the next year. But the small group ministry and how we've always imagined it is, let's come together, let's go deep together, let's let's let ourselves be known and get to know others, and then let's reformulate. So again, because of the pandemic and and we aren't sitting around a table and spilling coffee together. it's maybe does feel more abrupt. I want to appreciate that, but it really is sort of how we've always wanted to do it.
Well, you know what I'm thinking. Oh, excuse me.
No,
Go ahead,
you
Lynn. Yeah.
Is that then we need a way of, I mean, our group, I think, met through last year through June, but we had only started on Zoom in, what was it, March? So it did seem like a reasonable thing to do. But I think we'll need something having to do with ending. If you're looking at something that's this kind of, maybe abrupt's not the right word, but sort of, you know, it's kind of clear where you're saying, no, you know, you're not, I don't know, I'm not sure what you're saying exactly, except that there's going to be a change. But we need to end with our groups. And I don't know that that's ever really been built into the program exactly. And that might be a good thing, or I'm just thinking it would be a good thing to have. You know, if what you're wanting is that everybody end at the end of May,
Yeah.
That's not far from now. And people are connected to each other. I mean, that's part of the groups are successful. People do connect. So then we have to deal with that. You know, we need to do something to help end.
I really appreciate that. And so let me also name that for me, I was out of town for the better part of a week with family stuff. So it may be that my colleagues on the call have already wrestled with that and I'm not aware of it. But so I'm seeing the yes. And so would one of my colleagues like to comment about that particular piece?
So Katie I'm turning it over to you about the details, but I just wanted to say that I think one of the important things is in communicating to your group is that relationships don't end because you're not in the same small group. And to really encourage them to exchange emails or phone numbers or whatnot to keep those connections. So many stories, we've always run chalice circles or going deeper groups or however they were named, where that it lasted for a year. And then you expand your circle by having new people in your group. And so and there's a beautiful thing of people being at a church for 5 years and getting really close relationships with people and understanding of one another times 5. I mean, that's a really big deal in a large church. So I just want to hold that.
I'm sensing that this may in some way be related to what some of the facilitators have talked about in maybe 2 of our last meetings or so, about how some of their group members wanted to socialize, and that was taking a good portion of their meetings away and having an effect on their ability to get through their meetings, getting through the agenda of their meetings. I've never had that. I mean, I have always been able to get my people, right on task with the agenda, so to speak. No, that's not the right word, but I've heard many people say that there are people who wanted to really socialize quite a bit in their groups. And can you share with me whether that is what you're talking about right now, and your need to stop the groups as they are right now? Does that have a direct relationship to what you've heard many people say about their groups wanting to socialize with each other?
No,
No.
I mean, I'm not, I think we're making this a little more complicated than I'm meaning it.
Okay.
So this pandemic, we had to kind of batten down the hatches when we went to virtual church. And so we had to keep as many things constant as we could. And we've tried to make small tweaks to keep them going. We are faced with a situation where we'll be coming back in some way, shape, or form, and it impacts everything. So everything about our church needs to be considered. And we're in this place of, as we sometimes are, of saying, who are we trying to be overall, and how does our small group ministry serve as a part and parcel about that? So we're hitting the pause button and rethinking. So it's not a punishment. It's not a like, this stinks. I mean, that's Katie, we are so graced with how much she loves data and how good she is at garnering it. Because we heard really good things, so we really wanted to hear what if this is working, and so what has fed people, and we want that to be a part of the thought. And what else might we accomplish, and what have we done well at, what haven't we done so well at? It's really a kind of an overall assessment. And then, like I say, it's just this desire that that has always been true, which is that your groups meet for a year. Again, is that 9 months? Is it 10 months? Is it 8 months? But the bulk of a year. And then you say, wow, this has really been a year. You have some sort of ending ritual. You let go, and then everybody's put back in the mix. New facilitators are trained, and you move on. So that's, it's really not that complicated. And sorry,
Okay.
Darren, you were trying.
Oh,
to
that's okay. No, it's all right. So since we're all on the call, those of us that are here, show of hands, how many of you guys have talked with your group about wanting to continue for a full year? Anybody? Charlotte. And I can say that's true for my group. They all know that there's an ending coming. The question that I'm sure might be rolling around in their heads that we might want to have an answer prepared for is, because this has been their only connection to the church or a lot of people's only connection to church for a year, what are you suggesting they replace it with? And if it's the Sunday services, that's fine. But I know that what my groups have stated, and probably Katie's data shows, is that this has been their only form of connection to JUC over that time. And I think the abruptness maybe that Lynn has mentioned might be that suddenly being gone, because like I said, my group hasn't talked about going on for the full year. A couple of people have mentioned it, but nobody really jumped on the train, which is great, in my opinion. I think that closing wise, if I don't know what you guys have planned, but I know in the past, I've had to look this up and figure it out myself. So there wasn't material that we got that was specific to how to close your small group in a way that felt like you were honoring the group as much as I think we all want to that are on this call. And I'm sure you guys will take, we'll handle that now with a little bit of feedback and knowing we're going to end. It's all good, but I don't think it's very easy to do. So being sensitive to it, and also, as far as next year goes, I don't know that we have any control over what group somebody signs up for when the sign-up sheet comes out. If it's the date and the time that they can meet, you're liable to end up with a couple of the same people in your group, not because they love you so much, but because that's the date they can come. Hopefully they love you a lot, but you never know. But I would encourage everybody not to overthink it, having had a couple of groups that met for 2 or 3 years in a row. it felt hard after a while to be the facilitator of a group that met that long. And I actually really enjoy the portion of doing this that is meeting new people, telling new stories, and looking at things in that way. I think it's actually lovely and one of my favorite parts about doing this. And I will say, for anybody that, Rochelle, you might speak to this, but last year when our group ended, we still got together for probably a month and a half or two afterwards with a topic that somebody chose, and we sat in people's backyards during the pandemic, social distanced, and just had a chat about a topic, whatever it was. So, because Wendy says the group is ending just means, the formal Katie's going to send us materials, we're going to ask people to read questions and then respond. That's all that means. I think y'all should hopefully feel the freedom to know that fellowship that you've built can continue in some form, but it may just be a little bit different. And there's a beauty in that too. It's not all cut and dried and it's over and that's it. This can become something fulfilling in a different way. And you should, I hope I'm not expressing anything wrong, Wendy, but you should, feel the freedom to explore that with your group if that's what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I think that's what we've been trying to point out is like, yay, you've been together for this time and you've gotten feedback that on the whole, our folks have found this really meaningful. And so please, and again, Katie, wherever she is.
We lost her.
Katie's internet died.
Mercy.
Oh no.
Will be back with us, I know, in some way.
Yeah.
And she'll take you through, what's coming next. But we really want to encourage everybody to make sure that you have each other's names, contact info, and that you stay in touch and you be imaginative about how you do that. Maybe you want to read a book together. Maybe you want to have a Zoom meeting and schedule a topic, or maybe that's a challenge that you want to watch a service together, or you want to say watch a service and let's meet 2 hours after. It's welcome back, Katie. I think that I think you have a lot of possibilities. And I'm not talking about the service because I think that's the only way to experience Jefferson Unitarian Church, right? And I am saying that sometimes we think, oh, I don't really like to attend church, or I don't really attend church. And sometimes I think people are waiting for an invitation and then an interaction afterwards. We had an incarnation several years ago about, that was folks who went to lunch after attending the service. And I'm pretty sure the motivation was going to lunch. But no. I mean, I'm not saying that really with any self-pity. I really am not, because I just think that's the world we live in. We need to find ways to reach each other and connect with each other and invite each other, and I'll speak solely for myself, but I'm just guessing that my social skills haven't improved in the 15 months we've been apart. So, and I don't know that other people's have either. So it's like, how can we reach toward each other and find ways of doing that? Jules, you're trying to get in.
No, I think looking at this as a way to widen our circles. That we are a large church that, has done pretty, there's so much gratitude, and the space that you all held for people to be connected was incredibly meaningful for them. And we're, how these are the questions that we're wrestling with. How are we going to continue to offer online small group ministry when we get back together? What does a hybrid look like for people as we transition? All of these things are really big questions, trying to re-envision what church life under these circumstances will be. And part of that is our small group ministry. So, and just keeping that in mind of this widening our circles. How do we continue to connect people to our church, to our faith, and to the community that they're in?
Hey, you guys, can I ask what was the total number of facilitators? Because I know this particular core group that's on the call right now, we've been on most of the same people every time. What'd you have, Katie? What?
15.
15.
There's
Okay.
15 facilitators.
Cool.
And nearly 150 participants across the board. So
Wow.
So unless, if they don't happen to watch the recording that you send out, they won't even know about this.
I'll be communicating and
Yeah,
following up
I'm
with
sure.
folks to make sure they get the information. Yeah.
I'm sure you will, but I mean, they won't have had an opportunity to really process the information. And just like our members are going to have to, and we as facilitators are going to help our group members come to closure about this idea and help them somehow understand why it is happening and help them process all the information. They're not going to have an opportunity to really process themselves. You know, it's just kind of difficult to think about it.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much of a problem that's going to be, as this was promoted as a year, or the church season small group ministry, and so I don't remember it being, this is going to be your permanent group in any way.
No. Never ever was it promoted that way.
Right.
What I'm hearing though today, I'm also feeling, maybe it's not what I'm hearing, maybe it's what I'm feeling. There will be some kind of a small ministry group, something next year. But I know for my own self, I get a high level of satisfaction out of facilitating, or I wouldn't do it every year. But I don't know, and I don't, please other people, if you have the same kind of feeling, I'm not hearing whether these opportunities are going to still be here for us. So I'm feeling like everything is just stopping. And for the people that are attending these groups, they may have the same kind of feeling until we know what is going to take place.
Right.
For the going deeper groups. And obviously you don't know yet. So we have nothing we can tell them. There is nothing we can tell them because you don't know the answers yet. And that's a big part of what change is all about. Change is a process. It's not an event, obviously. And so we don't have any answers. They will have a lot of questions for us. But we don't have any answers for them yet.
Right. So the questions are, yes, there will be similar small group ministry groups available for them to be a part of. Absolutely. And I know that staff cannot speak for our facilitators of whether they are going to be interested in facilitating what is coming. So those are questions, and we will be connecting with facilitators as far as what is the interest and what is the training required for it and what this will look like. So I can't say well Lynn is absolutely in. Lynn doesn't even know what it is that we're offering. Yeah.
But we're not being summarily dismissed here, are we?
So
that's the way. Maybe that's what Pat's getting at. Well, thank you very much for your time.
That's a really good
question, baby.
Wendy. That is, I mean, that is a really good question. And so I think what it also offers, so the answer is, you know, nobody's being dismissed necessarily. And what are we going to offer? And where are you going to connect with what speaks to you as far as your, you know, your involvement in facilitation? There's going to be numerous opportunities. Our hope is there are going to be numerous opportunities at different levels that, you know, that we want that to speak to you and to be able to for you to connect with. And we can't tell you more about it because we're not for certain. We have definite ideas, but we're not for certain. And so it's a hard place for us to be, but know that it's necessary in moving forward in our support for faith formation for our adults.
That's right.
It feels like it would be counterintuitive to have gathered all that data like Katie did, gotten really positive feedback, and then said hasta la vista, baby, to the whole lot of us. So I think that might not be the path that the train is going down the tracks. It's just not exactly clear if it's going to be a left turn at Albuquerque and we're going to do Zoom meetings, we're going to do some in person, there's going to be a hybrid or what. You have to give everybody a chance to figure out what's going to be the best possible scenario for us to continue to grow the ministry through the small groups. And it's, I'm hearing that it's just going to take a while for you guys to put it all together in the way that you want. But I'm not hearing that anybody's being summarily dismissed. And if we were, you guys, we are going out on a high. we did good. So there you go.
I love it. I gotta say, Jules asked me to like start planning the next round of whatever. And I started going through all of the feedback that I was getting from everyone. And what I was able to put on the piece of paper was 8 to 10 people per group. So it's taking a lot more time to kind of figure it out. And we're also battling all of the changing COVID restrictions and the changing science. Jules and I and other staff members were in a meeting for an hour and a half yesterday, trying to wrap around how many people could feasibly meet outside. And we didn't come to any conclusion based on what the science is. So it's like all these different moving pieces. And yet there needs to be an ending so that we can figure out what the next beginning is.
And speaking of ending, we don't have that much time left together, right? It's until 6. And
Right.
so anyone that was wondering, Katie was gone, she couldn't answer for herself, but we do, part of this packet is that ending and that celebration of being together and that closure. So I think we probably should move on to that.
Exactly where I was. So
our May packets will have 2 sessions in them. The first session will be another opportunity. So May is our month of story. The first session has 2 options. You can it has a space for taking it home and then a storytelling activity, or you can go and do the prompts together as a normal Going Deeper session has been. And then in the last session, it's really built around recognizing the story of the group and telling the story of the group, giving some time to reflect on what this group has meant to the people in it. And then we'll make a word cloud. We'll have people contribute a word of their experience, and I'll have you send those word clouds to me, and I will work with Darcy to make them pretty, and then we'll send them out to your group as a memento, so that there is a little piece of art, a piece of the sharing. And I'll also be checking in with you to find out like who's dropped out, so that I have an updated roster so everybody gets contact information as well. So initially we had planned to practice both, or to experiment with both the storytelling exercise, where there would be music and a bit of time to reflect, and then also an improv exercise where each group would pull on, it's an exercise from improv comedy, where you reflect on what the group has meant and each person adds and each person contributes to the class. So I'm checking in with my co-facilitators, which exercise would be better to practice given that we're hitting our 6 p.m. mark.
The first one.
I think that improv exercise, Katie, feels better for the moment, because it's building off of each other. Do you agree with that, Wendy?
I do. I don't know why my muting and unmuting is painfully slow, but it is.
Yeah, the storytelling one is much more, you ask the question, there will be time for a little bit of music, and then a sharing that happens. And so if there are folks that are having any trouble with sharing music while Zoom facilitating, shoot me an email, we'll set up a time and we can practice that together. So let us turn to the improv exercise because it's a little bit different. Wendy, would you be able to get us started? Oh, there's Jules.
Sorry about that.
So Jules, we're
Improv
just
exercise.
turning it over to you for the improv exercise.
I know I could actually hear you all the way to the door, which was nice. I didn't miss any of the conversation. Okay. So part of the instructions are, as our Growing Deeper groups come to an end, we invite you to tell your group story. Each Growing Deeper group has been unique because of its unique contributions. So the questions are, if you were to tell the story of your group, what would it sound like? What stands out in your memory of our time together? What role has this group played in your life over the past year? So the exercises, please take turns sharing about 3 minutes of your version of the story of your group. Anyone can start. You must start with the response with, all right, can somebody speak? Because my earphones just died.
In the chat too.
Hello.
Okay, thank you. I can hear everybody. So you must start with the your response with, and then we talked about, or yes, but before that. Make sure not to cancel anyone's memory out.
And for the purposes of this exercise, we'll be talking about us as a group, as if we were our own Going Deeper group. And we've spent enough time together that we can definitely fill that role.
So,
Jules, can you give us the first lead question again, or the first lead?
I think they're in the chat box. So
I just dropped those 2 responses.
Oh, sorry.
There.
Got it.
Yep. So you can refer.
Then we-
So anyone want to jump in?
I'll get us started. We met in September on Friday nights. when that was the only time we could get people together. And I remember coming up with a PowerPoint with a scuba diver on it to emphasize going deeper. And at that point I think all 15 people came either to the first Friday night or to the second Friday night. And I felt like I just talked at you for far too long. But yet you came back to the next session the next month. So must not have been too terrible.
Yes, but before that, we all had really good conversations about facilitating and about what it would mean to facilitate in a online setting and the challenges, the training needed to manage Zoom and to teach others in our group to manage Zoom. And my favorite memory is feeling this, yes, we can, with everyone. We're up to the challenge and we're here for our people.
And then we talked about the problems people might have, especially newbie facilitators like myself. And we were given very, very wise suggestions, which were always harder to do than to listen to. But I think we all grew as a group and we tried a few new things this year.
Yeah, but before that, I was looking at the beginning of the year at the sign up sheet when I just had me, and I was like, oh my God, no one's going to come. And I got kind of worried. And then it began to fill up and I got kind of excited. But then we talked about our group's ADHD problems and how they had a difficult time paying attention through the whole thing or doing any amount of homework whatsoever. And it was fun to see people's creativity jump out from inside them and stories come alive as they shared pieces of their lives with each other in ways that I had never imagined that they would. And the things people said were things I didn't even know were inside them.
But before that, Katie tried to really get the facilitators to connect with each other by putting together that special facilitators group. Do you remember that? It was an online, I don't know if it was a Facebook group or what it was, and it never really took off. But she really tried for the facilitators to really get to know each other better by setting up an opportunity for us to communicate with each other. And I was really hoping that would take off because throughout this thing, even with this venue that we're on right now, I don't think we really ever shared a whole lot of personal things about ourselves as facilitators. And I was hoping that venue that Katie had set up would provide for us an opportunity to know each other as facilitators, as people a little bit. We really shared a lot about ourselves as facilitators, but not at all on a personal level. I don't think I know too much about many of you on a personal level, and I was hoping that that would happen.
So I will go from there. I'll take it from there. I don't know. I have not been, maybe this is only the fourth group I've been to. I'm not sure. But I'll have to say that it's great to get to know you all, even if it's not in great depth in this group. It's certainly been enlivening and interesting to me. I kind of come to the group with a lot of facilitation skills already, so I'm not quite sure what I've picked up on that, except that what I have appreciated is getting more of a feel for JUC and what the purpose of the Going Deeper groups is in relationship to the purpose of the church. So that's good. I like that. And I'm not sure where to go from there. So I guess that's it for now.
I'm going to jump in and say, and then we talked about small group ministry as a form of faith formation.
Oh, I do remember that coming up one time. Yes.
Yes, very much so.
And that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. I'd like to just make a little off, maybe another comment about the groups, which always amazes me every time.
So Lynn, can you hold on? Because
Sure.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that Judy and
Yeah.
Charlotte can get in, but also just to remember, we're actually not commenting on the groups. We're telling the story of our year together. So Judy, I think you had unmuted.
Yeah, I keep forgetting the I'm supposed to say. And then we talked about the uniqueness of all of our groups. In typical UU style, nothing's ever the same. And this was a big help to me. I ended up with two groups, not that I planned it that way, but it was like pandemic boredness, and I didn't want one group to have to serve the other, so I ended up with two groups. But it's been really wonderful to hear all of your experiences and realize that everything is unique and there are ways to still pull it together. You know, I think without this group, I would have become too unstructured. So you all were a big help to me to kind of keep it going in some kind of a direction. And my two groups are extremely different. So it's been really helpful to know that everybody's group is different.
And then as we talked about our different groups, I learned so much from each one of you in just the way that you manage different things that came up, whether they were difficult things or easy things, or, you know, how do I settle this person down or whatever. But it was just amazingly helpful just to hear everybody else's perspective, because I think we all have a lot of the same kinds of interesting personalities in our groups, and, you know, learning from each other ways to handle that so that the group can stay on task. So thank you, all of you.
Yes, but before that, oh, Wendy, we're gonna go.
You go.
Yes, but before that, in the fall of 2019, the new intern came and collaborated with Nick to make these Going Deeper packets that went out into the world with no faces attached or feedback really at that point. And so as the pandemic happened, one of the things that has happened to help the intern is this group, which has allowed me to interact and listen and hear and get that direct feedback. So thank you for that. That's my piece.
So thank you. Thanks everybody for participating. And I hope this gives you a sense of how it might go in your group and why it might be important. And I'm just going to note, like, this was not about white culture or doing race work. But for me, one of the things that, and I've had to do, I've been a part of groups that have done this. And the first time I heard it was like, oh, I have no idea. And I was resistant to it. But for me, one of the things that has come up is, as a white person raised in this culture, in white culture, I am used to talking about myself for myself. And the gift of going deeper is that you are knowing and being known, and you do form a group, as you know, right? You have this, you become a we. And so it's not just that you have a story, it's that your group has a story. And how fun to just let yourself toss this stuff out. I mean, if I was going to add to it, I would have said, but before that, we were trying to figure out when the heck we could meet with you all. And the idea of Friday night came up as the only one that that was available. And we said, well, hell, it's the pandemic. No one's going anywhere. So we can meet. So, I mean, that's all a part of the we story, and how fun to let that play out with each other. So I just wanted to name that. And Lynn, I had cut you off, and I'm sorry, but I wanted the experience of the group.
No, that's okay. I'm done.
Need to say what you were going to say earlier? You were going to make an observation, and I
Oh, Wendy, I've kind of lost it at this point.
okay. Well understood.
And then she just got so old through all this, she couldn't think of anything else.
Well, if you knew the amount of times, Lynn, on staff where we're talking, and I say, I don't know when that was, but I was much younger. Oh, that's all I know. It could have been just last Thursday, but I was much younger then. Anyway.
So I will be putting the finishing touches on the packets, and I'll send them out so you have time to look at both the exercises. If there's any questions, let me know. I'll also include a phrase as people kind of come to the natural end of sharing their stories that you can put the end on it. Hopefully I'll be creative. So as we come to the end of our time together.
Wait. Can I say, are you going to want us to ask if anybody feels called to be a facilitator in the fall, like we have done in years past? See Pam Moser in the upper right-hand corner of my screen.
TBD, but probably at some point, maybe.
Okay. That's fine. I just thought I would put it out there.
I would really appreciate other folks, your opinions of folks in your groups that they think might make you make
Katie, take
good,
two.
yeah, people you think might make good facilitators. But see my earlier comment, the only thing that I know is a small group, 8 to 10 people.
Fair enough.
All right, so as we come to our close, we'll do a little bit of word out. If there's a phrase or a few words that you'd like to share at the end of this time together that encapsulates your experience in our time together, feel free to unmute yourself and share.
I forgot to mention earlier that one of the best parts of, I think, of both of my groups is that we really were able to address anti-racism in a really healthy way. So that's been one of the really important parts, I think, of both of my groups. But I mostly want to just say thank you, Katie, for your leadership. It's been awesome.
Mm.
I'll say bittersweet goodbyes, or till laters.
Well, I'll just add that going deeper works. We always start up here and we end up down here.
I'm going to say deep appreciation for all of you, including the staff, of course. Don't mean to leave you out, so don't think I was.
Well, I would like to say that I feel very confident that come fall, I mean, things out there are still going to be crazy, but you guys are just doing such a beautiful job. And I just hope you realize that. And I know that you'll work it out, or you'll call on some of us to help you work it out.
I'll piggyback on what everyone else has said. I'm so appreciative of all the help everyone has given. And, Katie has helped me through some tough spots and some technical things that I was very naive about. And like sharing a screen when I had to figure out on that last packet how to use the packet and Zoom at the same time. I didn't know how to do that. And she was wonderful with working through some things with me, but I really do appreciate all the other facilitators and the entire staff with the wonderful work they did this year. And once again, I know that they'll move forward and have just wonderful ideas on what is going to happen next year. And I'm very confident that whatever that is going to be a wonderful improvement from what we had this year. And I just have so much confidence in everybody. What you people have done this year has just been outstanding, not only with the groups, but with the Sunday services, how you've put that together in such a short time. And I've just been in awe of all of you. So thank you very much. You guys.
I agree.
Star. You agree? Oh, yes, everybody should agree with that.
Yes.
It's just been wonderful.
It almost makes Zoom feel like normal.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll say my checkout words are complicated and wonderful, maybe wonderfully complicated, but worth it. Worth it.
Absolutely.
Nice job, everybody.
My checkout words would be tenacity and vulnerability and commitment that I've seen from going deeper facilitators. And that to me is humbling, is heartwarming.
I think mine are 3: courageous exploration of the unknown.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Whoa.
3 words also. What she said.
Way to go, Wendy.
I think that's cheating.
I think so too.
Okay, Wendy's got money in the bank for having good words, so
Yeah.
take a break sometimes.
No, it's, what I'd say is, this chapter builds on those before it and will help us write the next one. So deep gratitude.
Absolutely.
I won't end on a cheat.
So we're still planning to meet 1 month from today. You'll be halfway through May. Most of you should still have one more meeting after that. But if there's, any concerns, the first meeting in May really starts to preamble and promote that May is the end of going deeper. So if there are things that bubble up from your group that you want to talk about, that's why we're keeping that May meeting, and we'll see what we have to share at that point.
Way to go. Thank you.
So it's May 19th, 4:30 p.m., 4:30 to 6 p.m. Big hugs to everybody. We're getting close. We're getting close to be able to hug in person someday soon.
Someday, somehow.
You'll have to hug each other for me because I will leave before hugs are back. Darn it.
Oh, how are we going to say goodbye?
We're going to figure that out too.
Oh,
Up.
yeah.
It won't involve hugs though, but that's
No.
okay.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank
Okay, good night.
Good night. Thank you.
you.